Perkins. And as they say on TV, I'm not a commissioner, but I used to play one for 28 years. So maybe we'll talk about why I'm not a commissioner here as we finish this up. This is a class on burnout. And so I assume you either are burned out, or you've been burned out, or you don't want to get burned out. So I hope we address some of these issues here. I happen to be an expert on burnout. I've been burned out so many times, and in scouting and other things. So let me ask you, all of you, before we begin, have you ever been burnt out? Okay, you've been burned out, Paul? You've been burned out? Have you been burned out on scouting? Have you been burned out on scouting? That's interesting.
Yes.
Good for you, Paul, for being honest. There you go. So our learning objectives today are, number one, we're going to define burnout. Number two, we're going to explore some of the reasons for burnout. And number three, we're going to investigate and look at some possible solutions about how to avoid burnout or overcome burnout. So there you go. So I've got some questions to ask you. Who's been in, let's say, scouting or commissioner service less than 5 years or less? Anybody here 5 years or less?
Well, no.
In commissioner service?
Table.
Oh, bloody me, so we could just like this all out. Who's been at it for 6 or more years? As a commissioner, 6 or more years. Hey, hang on a minute, I gotta count. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh my. Well, that's pretty good. Who's had more than 10 years as a commissioner? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Over 15 years as a commissioner. Come on, let's see. Okay. 2 of you, 3 of you. All right. My, you are a glutton for punishment, I got to say. So I don't want to tell you about my background, but I never wanted to be a commissioner. I didn't want to be one because I was a scoutmaster and I was a unit leader. But I got recruited one time when I turned over my scout troop after several years. And I got recruited by a wonderful DE, Thad Cobb, and I love that man. He's long since passed away. I dreaded being a commissioner. Why do you think I'd been commissioner? Why? At least to burn out, but why do you think I did not want to be a commissioner? Why? Come on, you already know.
Because you enjoyed the hands-on experience with the boys.
That's part of it. Because as a commissioner, what do you deal with a day in and day out, day in and day out?
Problems. Yeah, the problems.
Problems. Other people's problems. Is that true? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, it is. Okay. All right. So as a commissioner, have you ever thought, I've had it. I don't want to do this another day. After tomorrow's meeting, I'm going to go tell the district commissioner to find somebody else. Have you ever had that thought? If you haven't, I hope you never do, but it happens frequently. You're going to say something?
No, was my answer. I've never had. I was a roundtable commissioner for quite some time, and I've been a unit commissioner for the past majority of the past year, and I haven't really had to deal with a lot of problems. Mostly because my unit is not. We're not that communicative, which is my fault, their fault, nobody's fault, both of our faults. So I haven't had to deal with their problems to create a bigger assessment. I wish I could. I wish I could find something, not a problem, but a way I can assist them. But they seem to be out on an island, and
well, God bless you, sir.
They're not allowing me. My unit's not allowing me to get burnt out by them. In other words,
I hope that grace is good to you for the rest of your commissioner life.
I would love for them to say, hey, we need this because we can't do this. We got to find one of those and send me off running.
Well, let's define burnout. Burnout is defined as emotional exhaustion coupled with anger and inefficiency and maybe bitterness and cynicism and maybe exhaustion and just out and out fatigue. So if you have not encountered that as a commissioner or as a scouter, bless you. But I'm hoping what we'll present here today will maybe prevent you from happening on that to you. I know as I've in my 60-something years as a scouter, I've encountered this emotional exhaustion number of times, and I know the reasons why. And maybe today we'll talk about how it won't happen to you if you do the right things. When I was a younger man, did not do the right things. All right, so what do you think causes? What do you think causes this burnout? And it happens. That's why they have this class, CED 701. Why do you think we have this? Because across scouting, it happens. And either if you want to prevent it for yourself, or you, as a commissioner, don't want to see it in who? Your cub masters, your den leaders, your scout masters, committee chairs, or whoever you did. Or if you're an ADC or a district commissioner, you need to watch for it in who?
ADCs and
Unit commissioners, ADCs, roundtable commissioners. You will see it. I've seen it over and over and over, and the symptoms are out there. But first off, let's talk about what causes it. What causes it? What do you think, Rick?
I could think of probably 3 different reasons why this would happen. Is one, we as humans need change. And so if I'm doing the same thing over and over and over, year after year, I need to be stimulated. I need to be something new typically. And so rotating, if I'm roundtable commissioner for 10 years, I'll fall into a rut. But drudgery, yeah, exactly. That's what I'm trying to describe. Drudgery can lead to a burnout.
Okay, very good. That's one. What's another one you might think? What do you think? Yes,
I think sometimes burnout comes by you not being appreciated by people around you. I know that a leader one time taught me that the failure to recognize somebody is a failure to energize somebody.
Okay.
And I see that in, I've had some people that I've served with that out of the blue, I find out that I'm getting some little badge or something or a recognition. And I always try to blow it off, but you know what? In the back of my mind, it's always really nice that somebody recognized.
Very good.
I was gonna say that's why a lot of us wear the knots. Is even though we're not seeking for them, so when you qualify and you get it, it's pretty neat. We appreciate that.
It is.
The other thought sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I got time.
I was gonna say behind the not appreciated kind of back. If a unit doesn't let you serve as a commissioner, you can't get in. After a while, you're not able to do your job. And if you can't do something you want to do and be able to help, that causes burnout. You get to where it's like, well, I give up. I can't do this. They don't want me.
Yeah, I can't do this. Too much, huh? Too much.
Or too little if they're not letting you in at all.
Or vice versa. You're going to say something, sir.
Yeah, thank you for your service, Major. And to piggyback that, my thought was doing too much and not being able to delegate could cause that. I mean, delegate is a good friend.
Okay. In other words, I've also seen too much work and too little time to do it, or too many jobs, too many positions. All right, so there we see some of the causes. Should be obvious to all of us when you see these things, but it's not quite not quite as easy sometimes as you might think. I have a granddaughter. I have many granddaughters, but I have one little sweetheart, Abby, and Abby is on burnout right now, and I can't convince her parents that she is, because I'm just telling you, you can see it right there, and we'll get to the symptoms in a minute. But what do you think her symptoms are? This sweet little darling 14-year-old who I love, she loves dance, and she's on the drill team, and she's working 4 or 5 nights a week on her dance team, and she is burnt out. how do you know we're gonna go into the symptoms. How do I know that Abby's burned out? Tell me how I know.
Doesn't care anymore about it. She doesn't want to go.
The spark is gone in that little girl's life. I mean, she still gives me hugs, but the spark is gone. I can look in her eyes and Abby's not the same
Is
person.
that what you're saying?
Huh?
She's wore out?
Every time I see her, she's either laying down and sleeping or she just says, "Hi, Grandpa," and she lays back down. When she's not at dance class or wherever she is, that little girl is worn out. And I cannot convince her parents. So anyway, there you see it in a little 14-year-old. Now, tell me the symptoms that you will either see in yourself or you will see in your unit commissioner, the scoutmaster. Tell me the symptoms that you will see. How about it, Christine?
Depression,
Huh?
depression.
Kind of depressed, right? All right, you all know depression in the society is it's out there all over the bloody place. So depressed. What else will you see? Just like in that little, like an Abby, they're tired and worn out. What else?
Lethargic.
Huh?
Yeah.
Lethargic, yeah.
She sounds like she's lethargic, right?
Lethargic. Now, today, me and Rick were driving down the canyon, Sardine Canyon here. And what do you think Rick and I talked about the whole bloody time coming down that canyon till we pulled in the parking lot? What do you think we talked about? Come on. Was it positive or negative?
Positive.
No, it wasn't. Was it, Rick? No, it wasn't. We're not burnt out right now, but we talked about all the negative things. And so that are going on in scouting. We talked about a few positives, but mostly negative because the things we're seeing in scouting. And so the symptoms are, like you said, lethargic. Lethargic. I'll get it. What else?
Frustration.
They're frustrated. Okay. They're what? Oftentimes angry.
Irritable, yeah, that's a.
Irritable. There you go. Irritable, angry.
You said depressed earlier.
Yep. Depressed a wee bit. I don't think me and Rick are depressed. We're not depressed, but we just know that things can go better. All right, what else? I told you about Abby. The spark is gone. The spark is gone. All right. If you can't see that in your scoutmaster, you can't see that in your unit commissioners. My.
I think it's harder,
Huh?
I think it's harder to see it in ourselves. We hang on and on and on when we probably should have recognized those symptoms and said, you know, it's time for me to do something else for a while.
Okay.
I think Rick recognizes that because he had some family issues and health issues, and he decided, I need to step back now
Yeah.
and take a lesser role. I'm still involved, but I can't do everything.
So one of my heroes is a guy named Rick Larkin. I won't tell you that, but he's one of my heroes. But I watched Rick, and he's a wonderful, wonderful district commissioner. I've been a district commissioner, but he's kind of guy that I thought I'd like to be like Rick when I grow up, you know.
Yeah.
So I haven't grown up yet.
I'm in that same club.
Yeah. When we grow up, we'll be like Rick. But Rick, I don't know when it was it April or anyway, it was early this year. Rick realized that he was in a spot where he shouldn't have been, and he turned it over. This was his turf, but he turned it over to somebody else. And it's tough for some people to do that once we get on our turf. Oftentimes when you're on your own turf, what? It's my turf, no matter how good or bad I am, I'm not gonna turn it over. So just think about that. The daily hassles. This is why I'm gonna put it in here. The daily hassles will get to you. And if this isn't a class on solving unit problems, but the solving problems over and over and over and over without getting any appreciation or getting any support or whatever, that will lead to it. So let me just throw a couple of other things here. Look, I've been in this game a long time, longer than I want to be. Sometimes I wonder, bloody goodness, I was 20 when once upon a time. I'm not 20 anymore. I don't have that same enthusiasm. But I have noticed, I hope I'm not stepping on anybody's toes, but I may be. I have noticed that in scouting, and I was guilty of it myself. I hold down 6 positions and I'm darn proud of it. Have you met people like that? If you hold down 6 positions or 5 or 4, tell me how good you are. I don't care how good you are. How good are you in any of them?
There's a saying, it's a jack of all trades and master of none.
Aye.
And I think that really applies. If you got all those heads, you don't have enough to spread among all those.
Well, I'm addressing you as commissioners. Is anybody here is anybody besides me not a registered commissioner? Anybody here not a registered commissioner? Okay, so let me just throw some things out there to you. If you are a registered commissioner, should you hold down any other registered position? I mean, I want to hear your opinion on this.
I'm lucky, I only hold the one.
Okay, is there anybody here who hold just, I don't want to pick on people, but does anybody hold here just one registered position? You only have one, and you're a unit commissioner, right, Rick?
Sure.
Okay, and you are
Roundtable commissioner, that's.
round table, very good.
Spot.
So we're all guilty of all this because we look out there and we care about what we're doing. You're in this business because you care about kids and you care about this organization. But when you often see a need, you go, well, I think I can do that, Pilgrim. And and the next thing you know, you're out there. You're a unit commissioner. Next thing you know, you're over here working as a COR, or over here helping doing this and that and this and that. And pretty soon you got these 3 or 4 positions.
That's why you put Velcro on it, so you can take the patches out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Well, and I think a lot of our units are hurting for people, enough leaders to get going. And so the unit commissioner will go, okay, well, put me as your committee chair. And they may or may not do the job, but they're registered there anyway. And they get registered as assistant scoutmaster somewhere else. And I mean, they're just trying to help numbers too sometimes.
And Mike and I talked a little about that. Some of your units, they get into that fallacy. I'm just filling the positions so I can get through recharter. But then there's not really anything there for the scoutmaster to fall on, and then the scoutmaster doing it all, and then there's burnout. And so I think it's and for the person, if they try to do it all, if you're trying to be an assistant scoutmaster and you're trying to unit commission, that's really tough. And I know I've had the opportunity. I used to hold several positions, and now with things going on, I've stepped back, and I've had the people come and ask the venture crew, Wade wants me to be back in the crew, and I'm like, respectfully, I would love to, but no, not right now.
Yeah, we talked about that, and go ahead, say something.
I think the issue that we have here geographically is when scouts in Utah transitioned to scouts from the way it was, a lot of the parents who had never volunteered because they just dumped their kids off on a Tuesday night for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Didn't realize that they had to do that, and then getting parental volunteers to come in and step up and do things becomes a burden. So you had people that started units like myself, Jimmy, whoever else started a unit, had to wear numerous hats. Because you couldn't get somebody to collect the money, you couldn't get somebody else to do the prize, to do the awards. It's if you have boy and girl, you have to have at least 4 leaders for each den, right? 2 for the boy den, 2 for the girl den. Same with the troops. So if you look at that's 20 parents that need to step up. I mean, some of these units lucky to have 20 Cub Scouts.
And the question is, and you'll have to solve this in another class, not in this class, but how do we do that? And that's vitally important. You're absolutely right. So when you get to, I think some other classes, they're going to tell you how to do that. My point here is that you cannot do it all. You and I see the need as a commissioner. We see the need. We cannot solve all the needs, but what we can do, and I hope some other guy will tell you how you're going to do that, but we need to bring others in. you should only really hold one registered position. You should really, does that mean you can't go help other people every once in a while? So, one of the things that you ought to do, and he just brought up a little while ago about drudgery. So as a unit commissioner, let me ask you, can you go out once in a while and help on a camporee? Has nothing to do with your position. Why helping on a camporee or a Klondike or helping on a blue course or something like that? Why would that help you overcome burnout? Yes.
Because it's a change of pace.
Change of pace.
I know you use that phrase because I
But-
think part of what causes burnout is that routine and the monotony.
But
The monotony, yeah.
even though you do this as a, say they put you on a blue course and you help on a blue course, does that mean you should be on every blue course that goes on? No, you were gonna say something, go ahead.
Well, I think a lot of times, especially if you're an administrative commissioner, you just kind of get into the stuff and you don't actually see it at the program level. So if you can get out and see the program happening and see it affecting those
Yeah.
youth, it kind of sparks you again. You're like, this is why I'm doing it. Because
That's why you should go, that's why maybe you should go to a camporee or you go to a, what's that thing that you Yanks do, you put those little cars and go down the. Pinewood Derby, yeah. Yes, sir.
So one of the things that I noticed, and Alan had the opportunity at camp, and this is something that we as unit commissioners could do, is we could view the troop that we were supposed to mentor in an environment other than just their meeting. And we could do a simple assessment. I know Alan did that for a number of units at summer camp because he had access to that, which is great. And that just sees them and sees their unit in a different light.
There you go.
And they wouldn't expect us to do that there, because it would be an informal thing. I mean, we would just be watching them go about their business, so on and so forth.
Yep. Yeah, these are burnout questions. We're gonna take this in a second here. Here you go, mate.
Thank you.
And I got one, I've got another one you can take home to your wife here. So, I'm gonna give you about 2 minutes to fill this out, just. If you need another one to take home to your, oh, you need one?
Yeah, I gave all mine away.
So you can take one home to your spouse. And, you and your spouse can go over, just look at this real fast here. I want you to put a 1, a 5, or a 10. You got 33 of them. I don't know. We'll burn up all of our time here taking this, but just look at this thing. I took this back, I took it back in July. I'll tell you my score for that in a minute. And then I took it again, about 3 or 4 days ago, I think. And there's a big change in my score. Oh, did you add up all your points yet? Okay, we'll see the points. You don't have to tell me your points, but we'll see here in a minute how we're doing. Speakers are not to put their hands in their pockets. Did you know that? My hands are cold. Speakers are not to cross their arms in front of them. I'm a graduate of the Fort Benning Murder Board. We at Fort Benning, I spent 25 years as a soldier. When you go to the, only 1 out of 10 ever gets through the Fort Benning Murder Board, or Instructors Murder Board. It is absolutely murder. So you learn never to turn your back on the audience. You learn to do V's and W's as you talk. So anyway, I don't know about Fort Knox, but the
Oh,
Infantry School Murder Board is a murder board.
when I was a scouter in Georgia, we visited Fort Benning as one of our trips.
Yeah,
The infantry school.
infantry school. So I attended the infantry school 6 times. So anyway, all right, here we go. So let me, if you've got less than 33 to 125, that means you're on a green status. You're all right. All right, I don't know if that's you. If you're in a 125 to 225, you're in a yellow status. Oh my, I hope none of you are in the red, which is over 225. So I told you I took this back in July. I was the council training chair at the time. I had a 155. What does that tell you?
Yellow status.
I was in yellow. I've been in yellow for over a year. I took it last week. I got 49 on it. What does that tell you?
You relieve some of the stress.
I removed myself as the council training chair on the 1st of September because why? Because I was in burnout and I knew it. Now, oftentimes I held that job for 2.5 years, ever since the merger. So I dealt with Alan a lot on this job.
I was gonna say part of that problem was probably me.
No, no. It's been easy to get along with you and Annalise and Wendell and other people I've had to deal with and as a counselor, as a commissioner. But I don't want to tell you all of my issues and problems, but I want you to know that you can get into burnout no matter how well you try and you get into burnout. So I want you to understand a few things. This council, whether you understand it or not, is understaffed. The professional scouters, they're understaffed and they're overworked. I simply do not know how Nita and Josh and Alan and Endicott and all the rest of them do what they have to do if you deal daily with them. And I've been dealing daily with them for over 2.5 years in this job. I don't know how they do what they do and their wits about them. So anyway.
We gave them a little help. We added some help for them this year.
Yeah.
We were able to, with the success of camping and stuff, we were able to.
Absolutely. Anyway, these are
Not
wonderful,
needed, but
wonderful people, but you don't have the excess of professional help that when we had in the 3 Legacy Council.
Oh, yeah.
We don't have that. I've been scouting, I said, for 60 years, and so I'm dealing with lots of professionals, and now you're not dealing with very many who can solve. And so we, as the volunteers, and you as commissioners, are there to do what you really got to do your job. So anyway, let's go on and finish this up here because I want to get onto this. If you want to mitigate or prevent commissioner burnout or any scouter burnout, we recommend that you only have 1 registered position. Sometimes you can have 2 because they're not grinding on you. But if you get 1 job and it gets to be too much, here's some solutions. Tell me some other things you can do. We just talked about 1. What's some other things you can do to mitigate or reduce that burnout? Give me some ideas here, because we just talked about some of them. We'll give you some more in a minute. Yes.
Recruit more people to help.
Get more people. Okay. I'll call this recruit help. And okay, we could talk for an hour how to do that, but we'll just talk about we need to do that. Get help, and once you get it, do what with them?
Delegate.
You gotta train them and then delegate them.
Yep.
Gotta train them so they know what they expected of them and then delegate it out. So there you go. What else? Yes.
You mentioned training. I wonder if there's some that are burned out because they aren't trained,
Ah,
because they don't know even exactly what they should be and should not be doing. And
okay. So now what we go into that, you gotta motivate them to be trained.
yeah,
So
Motivation is another one.
I think that goes back to my lesson with the servant leader, and I mentioned how I personally, when I went to Wood Badge, my perspective changed of what I was doing and learned how to do it right.
Okay. So we need to motivate people to be trained and in scouting, what do we know? I was listening the other day when we had this thing on with Annalise and right away they got into matches. I go, I'm like that guy who don't need no bloody matches. I love that treasures of the Sierra Madre badges. We don't need no bloody badges. So anyway, what do we do in scouting to give people motivation? We give them a little piece of cloth, don't we?
Or a bead.
Or a bead,
Yeah, give them a beat.
or a feather.
Food.
So I'll tell you a quick a 2-minute story. I just got to tell you this. Look, I was in Texas many years ago. This is 45 years ago or more. Down in Central Texas, I was down there. I can talk like a Texan because I was down there. So anyway, we had this wonderful DE. His name was Thad Cobb, and we were in a district committee meeting, and he said something to the effect like, "We got to get Earl working again here. He's starting to fade out." Burnout. I know how I'll fix that. And so at the next round table, Thad called up Earl. I guess that was his name. Earl, come on up here. And he gave him that little green square knot, the Scouters Training Award. He gave that to him and boy, Earl stuck out his chest and he was good for another 2 years. Well, 2 years went by and we were in a district committee meeting again. He said, you know, Earl's starting to fade. I guess we gotta take another piece of 35% cloth on that. That's what it cost in those days. Those weren't after 35 cents. And the next round table, they pinned the commissioner's key, or not the key on him, you know, the little red and the green and white square knot. He was good for 2 more years, I think. I went off to Korea shortly after that, so I don't know. So isn't it amazing? Thad Cobb knew that. Isn't it amazing what a little 35-cent piece of cloth will do to your self-esteem and to others? So it's motivation. Come on, what's some other things we can do besides motivate people? What's one of the best ways to motivate people? Yes, go ahead.
I think if you have a succession plan, so when you accept a position, you know, I'm going to do this for 3 years, 5 years, whatever. So you don't get feeling like, man, this is going on forever. When am I ever going to quit? When am I ever going to change? So you know ahead of time that there is an end date that you can keep in mind.
Okay, a little while ago, we talked about, if somebody that you're working with or somebody it's been there too long and they're just not doing anything anymore, what it goes into the succession plan. But if you're a unit commissioner, you see a scoutmaster who's been there too long and he just doesn't do anything much anymore. He's burnt out. He doesn't care. Who suffers from all this?
Everybody.
Everybody. So now you've got to get into I hate to say the word, get rid of the scoutmaster. That's not what we want to say because he's a wonderful guy, but he's not doing anything. So you as a commissioner have got to get in and do something. That's in another class. You can talk about doing that, but you need to be able to succession or replace people. If you are an ADC and you got a unit commissioner like Perkins who's dragging around all the time, it's time to tell Perkins what a wonderful guy he is and shuffle him off to the district committee who can put him to work on something new that might get him motivated again. So there you think about that. We need to take people out and replace them. You as the ADC, you as the district commissioner, and maybe you as a unit commissioner dealing with den leaders and cub masters and I don't know what all. I haven't seen that much here, but maybe I hope it happens. I was a commissioner for years in North Carolina and Texas and Georgia and everywhere else, and we get heavily involved in those units. They were not LDS units, which you can't do because they've called to those positions. But if you're dealing with units that are sponsored by the Church of Christ or the Kiwanis Club, then you can get in and help them find new cub masters and new committee chairs and new den leaders. That's your job, to go out and help them. Didn't do see much of that in Utah because you just didn't do it. Now I hope they start doing it, but I'm not sure.
We have,
All right, what else can you do about motivating people? What do you need besides a little piece of cloth? What else do people?
Well, if you think of the last class, one of the questions was, have you sent a note to anybody recently? I had to not circle that one because I haven't.
I'll just call this pat on the back. Of course, in the military, that's only about 2 inches removed from a kick in the fence. So, yes, at least.
I think to make sure they're having fun, make sure they're involved in something.
But what if they're not having fun?
Then you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, so you got to bring fun into this thing and a bit of humor. If it's become the drudgery, which we talked about, you got to turn it around. Yes.
So it's funny, no pun intended, you mentioned that the letters, one of the things when I emailed the person who is making the little placards, the name tags,
Yes.
I had mentioned to try to get her to respond to me quicker, that I was thinking of getting them for my assistant scoutmasters and all my den leaders as a Christmas gift. So hopefully, something like that. It's not
Yeah.
that's not a little 39-cent piece of cloth, but it's a $5 piece of wood with the name and position on it. And I think that'll work just as, because without assistant scoutmasters just
Yes.
lost sometimes.
Absolutely. Thanks here and there and little cards. Women are good about that. Women are very good. Men, us men, we rarely ever send out a thank you card. But if I get thank you cards, they don't come from men. Who do they come from? They come from my granddaughters. They come from my daughter-in-law. They come from the Relief Society. They come from the primary president. I never get them from men. I've never had, well, I don't say I haven't. I've had them from generals in the Army. Army generals do that, but they don't do it outside there. Hey, the other thing is, you're doing such a good job here, Kenny, as the ADC, that how would you like to also be, and there you go, or would you take on this big project of, and sometimes we just can't say what? No. Learn to say no. Now that, doesn't mean you can't go help them up on a camporee or what's that Pinewood thing? You come down, the Pinewood Derby. Pinewood Derbies are fun, aren't they? It's great to watch those 8-year-olds get, that's the most important things in the world, to win that Pinewood Derby. I never did that as a boy, but I think it's fun.
Or just to have them do it themselves,
But you can work on a Pinewood Derby,
do something.
but when they want you to take over as the dean of doctoral studies at the Commissioner College, that may be a way bit more than you really want to do because you're an ADC or you're a unit. Think about that. Now, I don't know, Annalise knows having half a dozen jobs, and quite frankly, I won't tell you everything, but I got familiar with her by watching all the good work she did, and so I gave her a phone call, well, was it a month or so ago, 6 weeks ago, and asked her to do a specific job. She said, well, wait till I finish this job here, Mike, because I'm not gonna take on another job. I won't ask her what I asked her to do. Anyway, say no. She told me no. That was, and she said it so well that I just was looking forward to the trip down to no, it was really a good, really nice. I wish everybody could tell me no that way. No, Mike, and leave me alone. But she didn't say that. She was very good. All right, so hey, here's another one that gets in our way.
Little tiny project.
Here's another one that causes I'll get it out if I can spell it right. This causes all kinds of problems. I got 5 more minutes here. Don't procrastinate. If it's gotta be done, get it done and get it over with. It just doesn't help to procrastinate. Procrastination causes all kinds of problems and leads to more stress on us. All right. I think I've said all that I want to say. I'm not sure we've given all the answers, but there's a couple of things we need to tell people. You need to watch for the symptoms in yourself and who else. Everybody that you're responsible for, whether it's the unit committee as a unit commissioner or you as an administrative commissioner watching those people who work for you. If you see those symptoms, do what's necessary. I've talked to therapists. I don't go to therapy, but I've talked to therapists and they tell me what people need to do when they get in a situation like that. They need somebody they can talk to. If your unit commissioners can't talk to you or they don't feel like they can talk to you, then you need to do what Alan showed up here today. We need to look at ourselves to see why people will not talk to us to solve some of their problems. You need to talk to them and tell them, we need to work on this, Bob or Porter, or whoever else you got to work with. Yes, Paul.
A personal example on that, knowing yourself and talking to people. A year ago, I turned in my resignation for the Council Advancement Committee after being there for 10 years. Because I was just burned out. I got this call from Josh at Scout Office, says, no, we need part of your talents there. I think you need to sit down and talk to your boss, who at the time was Bonnie Graham, and still is. So I called her, I emailed her, and I said, you and I need to meet somewhere, a location where it's not my house, not your house, etc. We met at a place, we had a Coke, we sat down and talked, and I had it all written out. Here are my problems. Come to find out, about 3/4 of those problems, she had no clue that that was a problem, because I hadn't talked to her and she hadn't talked to me. She got a hold of me about a week later and says, I got a suggestion here. Let's do this. All of these things, I'm going to take those away from you, but would still like you here. And here's what we'll do about it. Since then, in the last year, we've had a very, very good working relationship. And because I hadn't told her what the problems were and she hadn't picked up what the problems were. Take the time to talk to people. If you don't talk to them, you will never solve them.
Thanks, Paul. You're absolutely right. So you need to talk to yourself, talk to your wife, look at yourself, look at these, like this handout I just gave you. If you're approaching burnout or in burnout, you need to start looking at some of these things, get rid of your job, some of these jobs you have, get a new perspective on life, change the pace, take a vacation. More than once, I've taken 3 to 4 weeks away from scouting just so I can get to know my granddaughters and grandsons and my wife and my kids. So. All right, thank you for coming today. I hope I've given you a new perspective about burnout, how to avoid it. Somebody just tripped it. Who needs one of these extra?
That was a hint that you're done.
They just said, Perkins, you're finished.
Could I have one more?
Does anybody want one more of these?